are about to witness the best week of football we have seen all year. We've got marquee matchup after marquee matchup. On Thursday night, we saw the Eagles take firm control of the NFC East. Now we will see the Bills and Chiefs battle for control of the AFC. We will see a matchup in the AFC North for supremacy, and all in all, really a great week of football. Starting these off, the Packers and the Bears, a heated rivalry which has grown cold because how bad Chicago has been in recent years. And unfortunately, nothing is changing. There's something to be said about the interim head coach boost. I don't think that applies to offensive coordinators, particularly offensive coordinators whose last job was being the OC of one of the worst offenses in football history. The Bears look terrible. Their O-line stinks. Their receivers are uninspired. Caleb Williams is taking way too many sacks, doesn't know how to throw the ball away, is inaccurate on the outside, and does not look like the first overall pick. The Packers, good team. Unless Jordan Love throws 4 interceptions, their offense is going to run away, particularly off a bye from Chicago's. If Chicago just stalls, takes 3 and outs, doesn't move the ball past midfield, this is going to be an absolute embarrassment for them. I've got the Packers winning. I don't think it's going to be particularly close. Again, the only way I see them losing is if Jordan Love throws 5 interceptions.
From the body language of certain players on the Bears offense and the comments people have had about Shane Waldron on the Bears, looking back at the Seahawks players commenting on what the Bears offense may expect with Shane Waldron taking over in Chicago, you'd hope that the offensive coordinator change is going to bring a boost to that offense, but I just do not have all that much faith in that happening at this point, this late in the season, against a Packers team that is 3rd in the NFL in takeaways. The Packers are coming fresh off of a bye week. A banged up Jordan Love had a week more of rest to get ready to face this Chicago defense. And Matt LaFleur, one of the better head coaches in the NFL, had a week longer to prepare for this Bears team that is kind of floundering, looking for any type of success they may be able to sniff.
Floundering is a very nice way to put it. They're in free fall.
Floundering, free fall.
The building is on fire.
Whatever verb and descriptive words you want to use to describe this organization. I don't think they're going to be able to turn it around this week against a Packers team that is having a very solid season, and I expect the Packers to win.
Yeah, look, Thomas Brown's not better from an X's and O's standpoint than Shane Waldron. I'm sorry, he's just not. He's at best even with him in terms of low quality. Maybe personality-wise that does something, but personality is not enough to win you a game in the NFL. Jacksonville taking on the Lions. There is a 14-point line on this one. Mac Jones is going to be the starting quarterback, and I'm going to be generous to you, Tristan. You're trailing currently in the picks for the year. I will award you 2 wins if you pick the Jacksonville Jaguars and they win this week on this game. That is how confident I am Detroit is going to mollywop Jacksonville. Not much needs to be said about this one.
I'm not throwing away 1 point just for the small chance
what
of getting 2 points.
What would the number have to be? How about that?
I'm not picking I'm not letting you swindle me.
So if I offered you a 10-for-1 special.
No, because there's no chance this Jaguars team is... The Lions just won a football game in which their starting quarterback threw 5 interceptions against the Texans team that is better than the Jaguars. The Jaguars are starting Mac Jones at quarterback. You mentioned it. And the Texans were not able to beat the Lions despite a disaster on the offensive side of the ball. And they have C.J. Stroud at quarterback. So the Lions, especially at home in Detroit, there's no chance the Jaguars are winning.
C.J. Stroud was playing like Mac Jones in that game, so it's not exactly
I wouldn't go as far as to say that.
All right, turn down the 10-for-1 special. Keep losing.
The Lions are winning, and there are some really good games this week.
This is not one of them.
That's not one of them, and the next one is not really
not
one of them either.
Not a lover of the Raiders taking on Miami. All due respect to Antonio Pierce, he looks a little bit out of his element, and his defense, which was supposed to be his specialty, has just looked terrible all year. I know a large part of that is due to injuries, but as a defensive-minded head coach, you would like a little bit more from that unit. It's been pitiful. The Dolphins offense should absolutely cook them. On the other side of the ball, Miami had a very good performance against the Rams last week. Their defensive line got after Matthew Stafford, who... I'm going to be honest, the Rams and Raiders probably have comparable O-lines. There's no way to spin this. Miami's winning this game. It's at home. Miami's the better team. They've got the better coach. They've got the better offense. They've got the better defense. They've got the handsomer quarterback. It's just hard.
The Dolphins, they're trying to get sneaky, making a late second half push with Tua in as their quarterback. Last week, the Rams offense, they had 5 scoring drives. Turn those 5 scoring drives into just field goals because the Dolphins defense showed up in a big way. This Raiders team, bad team this year. We've talked about how bad the Cowboys running back room is, how bad the Cowboys rushing attack is. The Raiders, they have the worst rushing attack in the NFL, which hasn't really been talked about because they're not all as interesting as
who's talking about the Raiders?
Exactly. So they're not a good team. The only player you really have to worry about on their offense is Brock Bowers. No one at the receiver position really worries you in any way, and their defense is not good, so it should be a pretty easy win for the Dolphins.
Disrespectful to Jacoby Myers. Whatever. He's used to the disrespect. I'm tempted to flip the pick and say he's giving you 200 this week.
You know, I'll give, if you pick the Raiders to win, you can have 10 games.
I can have 10 games. Sweet. I'm taking the Raiders then. I mean, what type of conundrum is that? Tristan, this is a 7.5 point line. Of course I'm taking the Raiders. That's a 1-score game. I will take the 10-1 risk. I'm going to hold you to that, but by all means, I'm taking the Raiders then.
The Rams are headed to New England to take on the Patriots, and they were on a 3-game win streak before they lost to the Miami Dolphins, and some may be put a little bit off by the fact they lost that game, but they drove down the field 5 times, scoring drives, were forced to kick field goals, and they also missed a field goal. So their offense was still moving the ball down the field, and they just were unable to put it in the end zone. And this Patriots team, while Drake May has shown some flashes this year, and at certain points they've kind of looked better than the disaster we've seen most games, they're not going to be able to put up enough points against this Rams team, which has 13 sacks over their last 3 games. So I think they're going to get to Drake May. We'll see one of those 1 to 2 plays where Drake May has made a decision where you're not too happy with it, and I think the Rams win.
I think you're watching a few too many Drake May highlight compilations as opposed to the actual quarterback he is. He has been very good, very poised, very on time, over the middle, an awful lot. It's not just flashes. He is looking like a star NFL quarterback with some rookie mistakes mixed in there. But Kobe Turner, Byron Young, and Jared Verse should be enough to get a lot of pressure on him. The receivers, a little bit below par. If they had a decent amount of time to run routes against this Rams secondary, I think they could do something maybe, but I'm not optimistic about that. I'm also going with the Rams. There's not too much to say about this. They're the better team. They're better coached. They're deeper on the defensive front. The only way I see the Patriots pulling off a win is if Keon White just goes absolutely ballistic against this Rams offensive line, which has shown the ability to get blown up by larger outside linebacker edge types. Probably not happening. I can hope, but I also got the Rams winning. Now, the Browns taking on the Saints. A lot of people will say, oh, the Saints, they've got the interim head coach boost. They've got a better defense. There's more morale, yada, 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 yada. Jameis Winston revenge game. We are getting a good Jameis game this week. He is going to dissect this Saints secondary. And say what you want about last week's performance, I don't think they can keep up. If an offense is scoring points against them, putting pressure on Derek Carr, on Alvin Kamara, on that coaching staff, I don't think they can hang. I think J-Bo and company are going to go down the field, get at least 25, maybe 30 points, and paired with the Browns defense having the high-end talent they do, that'll be more than enough. Another Saints stinker is inbound. They're coming back to earth. The Rizzler can't save them. And their season is going to be effectively over with this one.
Congratulations. The Saints beat a division rival last week where the other team missed 3 field goals and they had a big splash play from MVS. That is not going to happen on a consistent basis.
What are you saying congratulations to, by the way?
The Saints fan base.
You're being a little condescending to Saints Nation, man.
You just said it was a Jameis Winston revenge game.
Yeah, that's a prediction, not condescension. I mean, we've seen J-Bo cook the Baltimore secondary. Do you think the Saints secondary without Lattimore is that much better?
Well,
not really.
They don't have much to offer. The defense is bad. Last week was an anomaly. The Falcons left 9 points on the board because their often reliable kicker wasn't that reliable in last week's matchup. So the Browns, Jameis Winston, he had 1 rough game out of the 2 he started so far, but that was against the Chargers, who are giving up only 13 points a game and are a phenomenal defense that I don't think is being talked about enough. So against this Saints team that does not have a good defense, all of the talent they have on offense is injured. The Browns, I think, are going to win, and they're in New Orleans.
So we've had one decent game so far we've talked about. Maybe you view the Bears-Packers as good because of the rivalry. Now we get into the meat and potatoes of it. We get into the Ravens-Steelers. I'll let you lead off and do your hating on the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Now, Steelers fans, they're high from...
Beating a really good team.
Steelers fans are riding high after a big comeback win against the Commanders last week. But if you are a Steelers fan and think this game is an indication of how the Steelers will fare against the Ravens, you are sorely mistaken. The Commanders, they put up 27 points through 3 quarters. They're not extremely talented. And if you think your defense is so great and you give up that many points to the Commanders offense, what do you think the Ravens offense is going to do to you? This Ravens offense is on pace to set records across the board in passing, rushing, points. It's one of the best offenses we've ever seen. The way they're able to threaten you through the air with Lamar Jackson, on pace to have, I think, close to 4,500 yards passing, 40 passing touchdowns. Derrick Henry's on pace for around 1,800 rushing yards. However many, I don't know how many touchdowns he's on pace for. But this Ravens team is significantly more dynamic than the Commanders. I've talked about and made videos about how bad their passing defense is, but that starts to not matter when this Ravens team is as productive as they are on the offensive side of the ball.
You are a dweeb, man. We have gotten to the point of you diminishing the Commanders' offense. Even if they're missing B-Rob, this is a talented dude. You diminishing that because you just refuse to give the Pittsburgh Steelers any sort of credit. Shame on you. Have some self-respect. Looking at this game, the Pittsburgh Steelers are scoring 30 points a game in their last 4. They are undefeated with Russell Wilson as a starter. A big part of that, wasn't as big a part last week against Washington, is Najee Harris cranking out 3 straight 100-yard games prior to that. I don't think that's happening against the Ravens defense. You flip that over to the other side, you look at this Ravens team. They are leading the NFL in yards of separation per route run by their receivers. Against Porter, against Fitzpatrick, against Jackson, I don't think that happens either. I think this is going to be a tight game from the offensive perspective. I think teams are going to have to play on the secondary element of their offense. I know we talked about how great the Ravens' rushing attack is. Their passing attack, one of the best in football as well. I think they're going to have to lean on their running game a little bit more. Make Derrick Henry run up the middle. Get those 30-carry games we've not really seen from him all that often this season. Rely on that to win. Looking at the Steelers, you're going to have to rely on Russell Wilson to throw the ball deep down the field against this weak secondary to Mike Williams and George Pickens. I think he can do that. I have a lot of faith in Russ in this matchup. I think he can recapture some of that 2020 let Russ cook early MVP magic, which we have seen from him in the past. I think he has his best game of the year from a passing standpoint against the Ravens. I think the Steelers' defense, their front seven, is able to do just enough to keep Derrick Henry in check, to keep Lamar from scrambling a ton and breaking the game to allow their offense to go down the field and win by scoring 25, maybe 30 points. The Steelers are beating the Ravens. They're maintaining control of the AFC North, and I'm wondering what the excuse is going to be from that side of the room when Pittsburgh wins next week.
This game is going to look a lot like the Bills and Ravens game looked. The Steelers defense is not going to be able to hold up to the Ravens offense. The Ravens rush defense is going to shut down Najee Harris, who was not all that productive last week against the Commanders. The Steelers are going to be forced to pass the ball down the field, and we're not going to get a couple of those crazy, somewhat lucky grabs from George Pickens and Mike Williams in this one. The Ravens are going to get out to a lead early. They're going to run away with the game, and they're winning by at least 2 scores.
Yeah, is there going to be an apology video this week? Is this going to be the TikTok clip? We're going 3 straight TikTok clips of you making us look like idiots because you won't give the Steelers any respect. The defense from the Steelers is in a different stratosphere than that of Buffalo, and it's not luck if it keeps happening. Mike Williams and George Pickens are 2 of the best elite sideline deep threats in football, and Russell Wilson is really good at throwing those elevated passes. You calling it luck is you coping. The Steelers are winning this game, and I want the apology video. I'm holding your feet to the fire next week.
What am I apologizing for?
For being a woefully incorrect Steelers hater, for picking against them when you know you shouldn't. On to a game of substantially less consequence. You've got the Minnesota Vikings visiting the Tennessee Titans. You know what we call this game right here? We call this game a bounce-back game from our pal Sam Darnold, the friend of the program, so to speak.
Everyone's a friend of the program.
Everyone's a friend of the program except Deshaun Watson. He is not a friend of the program. We got a few people who are not friends of the program. Got a few degrees of separation from Sam Darnold and us, as opposed to some other people, but you're getting me off topic. Between Aaron Jones, Cam Akers, Ty Chandler, this running attack should be pretty productive as long as they don't run directly at Jeffrey Simmons. They should free up some stuff for the Vikings receivers to really get active, get open down the sideline, down the field, over the middle against this lackluster Titans secondary. And Darnold, he has had an entire week of KOC screaming in his ear about throwing to Justin Jefferson in double coverage. He is spreading it around more. He's finding his second, third, fourth option and not just throwing prayers to the best receiver in football. The Vikings offense is going to be good. Will Levis, he had a very good game for his standards, particularly against the Chargers last week. Unfortunately, Chargers have a very good defense. It's not as confusing as Brian Flores. Brian Flores is going to hit Will Levis with a lot of different looks, a lot of disguised coverages, and we're probably going to see a game more characteristic of his early season escapades this week. I got the Vikings winning, and I feel bad for Will Levis.
Sam Darnold, he's kind of starting to see ghosts again. 5 interceptions over his last 2 games compared to 5 interceptions over his first 7 games. It feels like the seams are starting to come loose, and this Titans defense has been solid, certainly when it comes to yards allowed. But this Titans defense is, I think, the third worst in the NFL when it comes to takeaways. So I don't think they're going to be threatening the Vikings all that much when it comes to that. The Vikings are a well-coached team. They're coming off kind of 2 lackluster performances from their quarterback. So I think they're going to turn it around this week. And the odds of Will Levis having 2 good back-to-back games, we haven't seen it yet in his career. Could it happen? Yes, but as you mentioned, I don't think that's likely against his Vikings.
You're going to keep that same energy when talking about your golden boy Anthony Richardson against the Jets this week. He hasn't had 2 good games in his career from a passing standpoint, let alone back-to-back, so.
I don't know which version of the Jets the books have been watching. The Jets are favored in this one, but they are a bad football team, and I get that Anthony Richardson has not been a great quarterback this year. He's not even an average. He's a bad passer.
He's been the worst passer of the football in football. Point blank period.
The worst passer in the last few seasons. That is all true. They're playing a Jets defense that over the last few weeks has kind of been a sieve. They've been giving up points left and right. The Colts have a very good rushing attack between Jonathan Taylor, what Anthony Richardson is able to offer there. I think it is going to be enough to beat a Jets team that is reeling.
I choose to have some faith in Anthony Richardson. I gave Bryce Young the benefit of the doubt after his few 3-4 week benching that he came back and would be better. He has been. I think Richardson will be a little bit better from a passing standpoint, but I also refuse to believe that a room full of professional athletes who just got a tackling session coached them by their interim head coach is going to lie down and die. I don't think we're going to see 17 missed tackles this week. I don't think the Jets defense is going to allow themselves to be degraded back-to-back weeks by high-powered running attacks. I choose to have some faith in their pride and decency as human beings. I choose to believe I'll be able to call Ahmad Gardner Sauce Gardner again. I think the Jets defense has a decent enough performance, and given how bad the Colts defense is, how weak their run defense is, how lackluster certain members of their secondary are, that the Aaron Rodgers-led Packers offense will be able to score some points. Every game New York is playing from now on is an elimination game for them. If they win out, they probably grab the 7 seed. If they lose, they're done. I don't think they're losing this week. A loss will be coming eventually. It's not going to be right here to Anthony Richardson. It's just, I choose to believe in their decency as human beings, their pride as professional athletes. There's got to be some break in this.
I also just believe in the Colts more because I believe in their coaching staff more than I believe in the Jets coaching staff.
Yeah, the Colts coaching staff did a great job these past 2 weeks. Falcons versus the Broncos in Denver. Sean Payton stinks. Bo Nix stinks. I don't care that he was the offensive rookie of the week or whatever. He still stinks. Can't complete a pass over the middle. Can't do anything besides throw outside the numbers, 15 yards downfield or shorter. Falcon secondary is tearing this man apart. They're getting 2 picks. Kirk Cousins, he lives for the heights of Mile High Stadium. Going to cook this sorry Broncos defense feels like a stretch. I can be a hater and I can be realistic at the same time. Kirk's going to be a little bit better. Younghoe Koo is going to be a little bit better. Got to be a lot better this week or they're going to cut him. And in general, that Falcons running attack with Algier and Bijan. Algier, by the way, massively more efficient than Bijan. One of the best running backs from an efficiency standpoint this year. So we may see a little bit more of him than we expect. But they're just going to road grade over this team. Falcons win. I'm always picking against the Broncos. It's eventually going to pay off.
It hasn't paid off so far this season.
Yeah, it paid off 4 times. Paid off last week.
You've picked them to win before, though, right?
I don't think I have, actually.
I mean, both the Falcons and Broncos are coming off games where they had some big mistakes that led to them losing. And the Broncos, they were extremely, I think, pumped up at the end of the game. They were going to be the team to hand the Chiefs their first loss. That did not happen. Leo Chenal blows over, was it the guy playing guard, playing tackle on the special teams unit? Either way, puts him on his ass, jumps up, blocks a kick, and the Broncos are left devastated on the sideline. That is an emotionally deflating loss, and the Falcons, they're irritated. They just lost a game they should have won because their kicker missed 3 kicks. On those 3 kicks, maybe you should have put the ball in the end zone, led more successful drives. So I think the Falcons are coming into this one playing pissed off. Young Hoku is not going to miss that many kicks. The Broncos, they're emotionally deflated. They're depressed. I think they're going to come out flat, and the Falcons are going to get out to a lead that they won't relinquish.
That's some attempted psychology there, which I'm almost proud of because it's being used to dismiss the Broncos. I'm a big fan of your work there. The equation's not quite right, but you came to the right solution. Anyway, you can do Seahawks 49ers. You'll enjoy this.
I don't really believe in the Seahawks or the 49ers from what we saw from them this season. The 49ers, they're not consistently putting the ball in the end zone, and the Seahawks have won 1 game over their last 6. Maybe that's because of their health. Maybe that's because of their offensive line sucking. Maybe that's just because Geno Smith is not as good as he was 2 seasons ago. I think you can kind of point to all 3 of those things. So in this one, with a 49ers team that has Christian McCaffrey back, their run game is going to be better. They're still very productive on the offensive side of the ball from a yard standpoint. They're at home in San Francisco. I do still think they win.
Yeah, I mean, San Francisco should have beaten Tampa Bay by 2 scores if Jake Moody could make his kicks. Unfortunately, he was playing hurt. That wound up costing San Francisco. Came back, hit the game winner. I think with another week to get healthy, he is going to get back to his normal form, particularly with the confidence boost of walking it off. Certainly, if they keep Deebo Samuel away from him. San Francisco's got 5 elite pass catchers. They've got a very soft matchup with this Seahawks secondary this week. Seahawks pass rush, not that good. The only real way the Seahawks have to move the ball to win this game with their offensive line being as bad as they are is take Geno Smith, put him on the bench, bring Sam Howell into the game because he's got a certain advantage against Nick Bosa, which Geno just doesn't have, and he's a little bit more mobile. So I think that could hold off Bosa like we saw Baker hold off Bosa a bit, allow him to run their offense, get some of those deep balls downfield, do Lockett, Metcalf, JSN, do something. The run game, it's probably not going to be popping off against the San Francisco front 7. I got the 49ers winning. Not too much more needs to be said.
I realize you're a fan of UNC
I got
products.
no love for UNC. I think Sam Howell's probably better than Geno Smith at this point.
I don't know if I agree with that.
I don't know if I agree. You can't even take a firm stance on that. Pathetic. A
I don't
game
think so.
A game we're going to take a firm stance on, though. The Chiefs are finally holding an L this week. They're going to Buffalo. They're playing an offense, which is better than them. They're playing a defense, which is getting its best player back, presumably. I've not heard confirmed reports that Milano is going to be playing, but he has been reactivated. I choose to believe they're going to try and roll him out there. And I'm optimistic. I think the Chiefs have 2 losses in them this year, and I really hope this is one of them so they don't have to try and pick the Panthers to beat them next week. The Bills have better receivers. They've got a better running back right now. The offensive line is kind of a wash. The Chiefs clearly have a better interior O-line, but the Bills have better tackles. This season, Josh Allen has been better than Patrick Mahomes. Defensively, I take the Bills linebackers. Other than that, I'm probably going with the Chiefs. Maybe the Bills outside linebacker / edge play can get to that level with Von Miller. I don't know. I just think Josh Allen does not let himself be defeated by Patrick Mahomes when he's got the better weapons, when he's got Cooper, when he's got Keon Cole, when he's got Khalil Shakir, when he's got his tight end duo and James Cook. I think he really tears into this Chiefs defense, gets after them, gives them a 30-piece they have not been accustomed to all year, and with how pathetic that Chiefs offense is, I don't think they're able to quite keep up. I got the Bills, I got Josh Allen pulling off the win, making the Chiefs undefeated no more.
If anyone was going to beat the Chiefs, it was the Broncos last week when they were caught sleeping looking ahead towards this Bills game. The Chiefs are still going to win. And he mentioned the health of some players on this Bills team. Their offense is kind of banged up. Last week, Keon Coleman and Amari Cooper missed the game due to wrist injuries. Dalton Kincaid is banged up with a knee injury. Their right tackle is dealing with an ankle injury, so this offense is not coming into this game against the Chiefs entirely healthy.
So wait, to be clear about this, you're saying they rested starters against the Colts so they could be more healthy for the Chiefs. That's what I'm getting from that.
They missed games due to an injury.
I think they rested
and Amari
starters.
Cooper missed it 2 weeks in a row due to wrist injury.
They treated Indianapolis like an FCS team last week.
If that's the direction you want to go with it because you think they were that confident, you are more than welcome to head in that direction.
I mean, who wouldn't be that confident playing the Colts? But
a confident team is the Chiefs, and they recognize what this Bills game means. Because if they lose this game, all they have to do is lose another game, and then all of a sudden they are the 2 seed because they will not have the tiebreaker with the Bills. We have seen the Chiefs play like their hair is on fire all season long in the biggest moments. Have they been the best team at every point in every moment of every game? No. That's why Patrick Mahomes' stat line is not all that great. But when it matters, when they need to show up, they do, and they are going to beat this Bills team to remain the 1 seed, remain undefeated, and remain the best team in the AFC.
It's a little bit optimistic from you saying, oh, well, if the Bills win here, the Chiefs only have to lose one more game if they're not the 1 seed. The Bills could quite easily lose a game during the remainder of their schedule, particularly with the way it's set up. So I wouldn't be so foolhardy about predicting that. Buffalo's getting this dub. At the very least, if you want to point to history, they have generally been better than the Chiefs in the regular season. Once the playoffs start, completely different story. We will get into that probably 2 months from now. But I digress. The Bills are winning this one. The Chiefs undefeated no more. If they don't win this one, I mean, Panthers beat them next week, so who cares, really? That's going to be a rough prediction I make.
The Panthers beating the Chiefs?
If the Bills don't beat them, I think I am going to predict the Panthers.
Sometimes you just love throwing ones out the window.
Do I get a bonus 10 for that one as well, or no? I don't want a bonus one. I'm good with the 10 I got this week. The Panthers are beating the Chiefs if the Bills lose to them.
Cincinnati, they're headed to LA to take on the Los Angeles Chargers. And I don't get why the Bengals they keep getting favored by the sportsbooks to win games. This Chargers defense has been great all season long. I get the Bengals offense has been great, but the Chargers defense is going to do enough to limit the Bengals offensive production through the air. And this Chargers offense has really gotten in the swing of things over the last 3 weeks as Justin Herbert has been significantly healthier. Quentin Johnson is getting healthier. He's really starting to develop into a receiver that is able to threaten you down the field rather than be a liability like he was earlier in his career. Still not all that special of a player, but a productive player nonetheless. So I think this Chargers team that has put up 26, 27, and 27 points over the last 3 games, combined with a great defense, is going to beat the Bengals.
Did you start that little spiel off by saying the Bengals were favored to win this one?
I thought they
because they're not.
Never mind. I got that wrong.
Again, they are not. I was very confused when you said that. The Chargers are 1.5 point favorites at home. I think it should be more than that. I think the Chargers should be favored by close to a touchdown. This is an elimination game for the Bengals. If they lose this one, they're done for the year. They're going to have to win out if this does not result in W for them. I think it's going to be over. Herbert's been playing on an MVP level, a hyper-efficient passer with somewhat lackluster receiving threats, although he is elevating those receiving threats, and those receiving threats have been playing very well, particularly Quinn Johnston and, God, who's the white
Ladd
dude?
McConkey.
Ladd McConkey, thank you. Look, I'm not even going to address the Chargers' running game. The Bengals stink. They're a one-dimensional offense who can't run the ball. Their O-line's not that good and are super reliant on Jamar Chase and T. Higgins to score points. Against this Chargers pass rush, against this Chargers secondary, that's not going to happen. The last time the Bengals played a defense as good as the Chargers, they got absolutely mollywopped by the Eagles. While I don't think LA's offense can score quite that many points, it's going to be close. This game's not going to be that competitive once we get to the third quarter. The Chargers are winning, and they're going to eliminate the Bengals from the playoffs right here. Texans Cowboys, the Monday night game of the week. Yuck. I remember back a long time ago when this game was supposed to be competitive, when these teams were healthy, when everything was going kumbaya. Now it's just a bunch of injured players, backups, squared off against each other. Maybe the Texans get Nico Collins back, maybe they don't. I don't care. Their line still stinks, but they're playing Cooper Rush. They're playing the banged-up Cowboys defense. The only possible hope Houston has of losing this game and bettering their draft stock is if Micah Parsons puts his money where his mouth is and has a productive game, not just a 2-sack performance he had last week in garbage time, but an actual dynamic, show-stopping, butt kicking of the Texans offensive line, records 4, 5, 6 sacks, doesn't let Houston's offense move the ball. I don't see that happening. Mike is a podcaster, and the Texans are winning.
You're ignoring a key element to this game. This game is being played at night, so there's not going to be sun in CeeDee Lamb's eyes as he goes up for a ball in the end zone. So he may get in the end zone this week.
So it's only going to be a 5-score game then?
And make things a little bit more interesting. But the Texans, they have Joe Mixon, who's been one of the 3 best running backs in football, going against a porous Cowboys run defense. And Nico Collins is supposed to be back. As you said, the only way I think the Cowboys can turn this into a game if Micah Parsons has an all-time performance against a terrible Texans offensive line.
I was gonna say, does it count as an all-time performance if it's against the Texans O-line?
Well, if you have 5 sacks, anytime you have 4 or 5 sacks, it's a pretty incredible game.
I don't know. I feel like Khalil Mack's 6-sack performances against actual offensive lines move me a little bit more. I'm not going to be moved by a 5-sack.
In the record books, do they, when we're looking
a
back...
5-sack game's not going in the record books.
When we look at players' seasons and we see that they had 12 sacks in the season or 16 sacks, I don't think we look that deeply into it and say, oh, he had 5 sacks against the Texans offensive line.
When I look back at this season for the Cowboys, I want an asterisk on the football reference page, which you click on, links directly to Micah's podcast clips about Mike McCarthy. The 5 sacks ain't happening, and even if it does, it doesn't move me.
The Texans, they're a more talented team. The Cowboys don't have all that much talent left, so expect the Texans to win. That has been this week's podcast. Like the video, subscribe, use code Thicc on Underdog. Gets you bonus cash up to $1,000, and we'll see you in the next one.